Hey, what's up, everybody? This is GreyMan Prepping here with Alaska Prepper. I'm glad everybody
Hello,
can join
everyone.
us this evening. So how are we doing, brother?
Good, good, man. How are you?
Not too bad.
Well,
If
thank you
everybody,
for having me, man.
anytime, you're always welcome on the channel, brother. This is pretty awesome, man. And just want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Yes, I'm a little bit nervous.
Let's see who's in the chat.
5 by 5. Okay, so what do we got here? Let's go through
Nice.
here. We got Patty B, Bonnie,
All right.
D. Dot, RT, Caribbean House, B Charming, Domestic Gangster, Cryptic Woods, Airborne Prepter, Northern Girl Hobbies, Tristan Barnett, Richard CZ, Cryptic Wookie. There's a bunch of them in there. All right, John Wright, Prepping Plumber. They're just starting to fall all in right now. Everybody, they're clubbing tonight, as they say.
Yeah, I recognize some of the names on the chats. How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for joining in tonight.
Yes, very appreciated, man. Been looking forward to doing something with Rudy for a long time, and I'm glad he gave me the opportunity to do so. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this, brother. So about early in the year, actually, I think it was New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, you had said something that was really that intrigued me in regards, because I know you're pretty much an expert in this stuff, at least from my perspective, is the economy. And the reason I'm going to bring up that economy is you had said something about how money is printed. You said something, and you can elaborate on this. It's something about 1.7 million, and then also 19 million, and only 10% of it is something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
So the amount of cash, you know, like I'm trying to think if I can do this. There's like, man, I wish I could. I took bullet points. So I don't know the specifics. So you had a conversation with Magic Prepper on New Year's Eve, and you had this, and you were talking about the economy and how it works, and you were trying to explain how much actual cash there is in the economy.
I got you. All right. So the numbers you were using were accurate, except they're missing a few zeros.
Okay.
So what I was getting at that the M2 money supply, if you want to picture it, is like all of the currency that exists within our economy in the form of savings, cash, bonds, checking accounts, any stocks that you may have. So all of the liquid assets. So if you can take, like, for example, a stock and turn it into cash, that's part of the M2 money supply. So pretty much all of the money that's circulating in our economy is equal to roughly $19 trillion. However, in the entire world, not just the US, in the entire world, there only exists about 1.7 trillion physical dollars. So I was trying to make a point that most of the dollars that you think you have don't even exist. It's fake money. It's fiat currency. It doesn't even exist. Even if you think you have it because your checking account says you have $100,000, that money doesn't exist until you actually realize that money, meaning that you take that cash out, have it in your hands, and then turn it into something real. Because even a dollar that you have in your hand doesn't exist. It's a dollar note, but it's really a promissory note or a debt note. And a debt note really doesn't have any value until you take it and realize the value from it. So, for example, if I have a 25, well, nowadays it's a $40 bill. If I have a $40 bill, two 20s, right? Those two $20 bills, they're not worth anything. The only intrinsic value that they have is about 28 cents. It costs about 11 to 14 cents to make a $20 bill. That's the only real value that it has until you realize the value out of it by exchanging it for something that's real. So I can take two $20 bills, go to the coin shop, and buy me a silver eagle, a 1 ounce silver eagle. When I do that, that's when I actually have the money in my hands. That's when I have real money in my hands. Other than that, you're only dealing with promissory notes and debt. We live in what is called, and not only we in the US, but in the entire world, we live in what is called a debt-based monetary system. which means that all of the currency out there is debt. And if the government doesn't continue, or the Federal Reserve, if they don't continue to expand the debt, that's why the debt never goes down. When you look at the debt clock, it never goes backwards. It always goes forward. The day that that debt clock starts going backwards, that's it. The system is over. We're getting ready to switch over to a new system, or we've already crashed. Because in order for this monetary system to stay alive, they have to continuously print more money, create more debt. And the way that debt is created is out of thin air. And a dollar is debt. So that's what I was getting at, that even if you think you have money, fiat currency in the bank, you really don't have it until you go through all of the steps that you need to go through to realize the real value in what you have. And the problem with that is that when this system finally ends, and it will end, every single fiat currency in the history of mankind, every one has gone to zero. When it ends, the people that are left holding the paper will lose everything. And if the system is reset, like, for example, a lot of people don't understand this, but August 15th of 1971, when President Richard Nixon reset the system by taking us off the gold standard, he really defaulted on all of the debt that we had. When he reset the system, people lose. The average person lost. How did they lose? Because once he did that, the value of the dollar, what your dollar could purchase you, went down dramatically, pushing inflation up, meaning that the cost of goods before he did that were pretty stabilized because we were in a go back currency. And when he took us off that go back currency, when he took us off the gold backing, the value of the dollar was a lot less, which means that everything that you buy is a lot more. So whenever we have a reset of any kind, it's the average person that loses. So that's why I am adamant in only keeping in the bank those funds that I need to sustain my standard of living for 3 to 6 months. So I take all of my bills, and I'm like, all right, so it costs me $1,000 a month to pay all of my bills, my utilities, everything that I need to pay for my standard of living. Let's say it's $1,000 a month. I try to keep 3 to 6 months in the bank. Everything else I take out and convert into what is real money. And real money is not just gold and silver, but stuff that you know you're going to need in the future. That food that you have in your pantry, that's money. And the reason that's money is because the value of it is within itself. The hours that had to be worked and the capital that had to be invested in order to make that can of corn, that's value. All of that value is still in that can of corn. So if you want, you can actually say that that's money. That's a form of money because all of the value is within itself. I think I answered your question.
Yeah, that you did. And that's why, I feel like it's not, let's say, triggering, but it's like getting, because I know you know this stuff inside and out. And I watch a lot of your material because it's helping me on that economic aspect. Like another thing you had discussed not too long ago, and it might have been on one of your ladies and gentlemen's club video that intrigued me. You were in the car and you were talking about basically food and this $15 an hour thing and how it's going to affect us. And you made some really good points in regards to basically how you were talking about distribution and all the different centers and how it affects everything coming down the chain, which I thought was truly interesting because I don't think people see that. They only see the grocery store, and that's usually as far as they look.
Yes. Yeah. So, people don't understand that when the minimum wage is raised, everything else is going to go up. The price of living is going to go up. So that minimum wage, that $15 an hour, let's just use 15 because that's what everyone talks about.
Right.
So let's say you make $10 an hour right now. People look at it in nominal terms, meaning in numbers, 10, 15, 20, whatever. That's how they look at it. They should look at it in regards to purchasing power. So let's say you're making $10 an hour right now, and a pound of banana costs $5, right? I'm just making stuff up. Let's say that you're making $10 an hour now, and a pound of banana costs $5. Well, it takes you 1 hour to buy 2 pounds of bananas. All right, let's go ahead and push the minimum wage up to $15 an hour. Besides all of the other negative things that come with that, like a lot of people losing their jobs, et cetera, right? Let's just talk about the impact that it's going to have on your life. So now you're making $15 an hour and everything seems great because you're making 50% more than what you were before. However, 3 to 6 months down the road, you're going to find that that pound of banana now costs you $7.50 a pound. And you're still going to be able to get only 2 pounds of banana for that $15. Why is that? Because of the labor that it takes to get that pound of banana. So if people are getting paid $15 an hour, now it costs more for the same amount of labor. So now the end consumer is going to end up paying more now in nominal terms than they did before, but not necessarily in labor. So you're going to be in the same spot that you are, with one exception. You're going to be paying more taxes.
Yeah.
See, so the government loves that because they know that if they raise that minimum wage, not only are people going to be paying more taxes, but they're going to have to work more just to get the same stuff they got before.
It's logical, man. And the way you, like I said, that's why the way you broke that down, I started spreading that message to a lot of people that have questioned me on it. And it's like I said, it's very helpful to get that information from people like you to help spread that message along to others as well, outside of the YouTube realm. You know what I mean? Now, I was always wanted to pick your brain on, a lot of people talk about cryptocurrency, and I wanted to know your take on cryptocurrency, because I've heard some people say that this is something you should do, and other people say you stay away from it. If there's something that bad's happening in the economy, there's going to be no power and everything collapses. Like, what is your take on that?
All right. Well, let's go ahead and take the EMP solar mass, let's go ahead and take the EMP coronal mass ejection and all that stuff out of the way first.
Okay.
First of all, if let's say we had an EMP or a coronal mass ejection that affected the entire world, and the entire world was without electrical power, and we didn't know when we were going to get electricity back, right? They say that it takes about 3 to 5 years to build one of those huge transformers that we need in case we have an EMP, and then we have to transport it and all that kind of stuff, right? So let's say that happens. If that does happen, cryptocurrencies, gold and silver, cash would be the last of your worry. Trust me. You will be worried about water, food, shelter, warmth, medical equipment, self-defense. All right, so if that happens, it doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter how much silver or gold you have. It doesn't matter how many cryptocurrencies you have. None of that matters. You're going to be worried about surviving. I'm not sure if you've heard this before, but there was a congressional hearing. I forgot when it was. I think it was like around 2003 or 1999, something like that, about EMPs. And it's estimated that if we have a nationwide EMP and that no other countries can come and help, let's say the entire world got hit by the coronal mass ejection and the entire grid is down and we're not going to get it for a year or more, it's estimated that 90% of the population would die off. So if something like that did happen, cryptocurrencies is the last thing on my mind. Silver and gold is the last thing on my mind, because that doesn't matter, because you need to survive. All right, so let's put that one to rest, because I hear that one all the time. And what do I think about cryptos? Is that what you're asking me then?
Yeah, like should we invest into that? I've always looked at it. I'm just curious what your take is on it before I.
Sure.
And I know a lot of people like to make that stipulation. Well, I'm not a a financial advisor and all that stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm going to tell you exactly what I think, which is funny because just before we got on about half an hour ago, after I got off my live stream, I was actually doing some crypto trades because I do dabble in cryptos. So I'll give you the short story real quick. Well, there's no short stories with me. But so about 2016 or so, I found out about cryptocurrencies. And when I first found out about them, I was like, this is ridiculous. I will never dabble in this. There's no way I'm going to mess with this. Then I started looking at the actual technology behind it, right? And I don't think we really have the time to get into the nitty gritty. But what I have to say about it is, after studying it, is that cryptocurrencies, decentralized cryptocurrencies, like Bitcoin, like Litecoin, like Ethereum, those types of cryptocurrencies, decentralized, meaning that there is no building that the government can go knock down and say, you're not gonna sell Bitcoin anymore. You're done. Bitcoin is over. You can't do it anymore. There's no building. There's no headquarters. It's decentralized. There's not one entity that can control Bitcoin. Bitcoin is controlled by all of the users all over the world, right? Wow. So it's decentralized, meaning that it's a real free market. Bitcoin is a true free market. When you look at the price go up and down, you're looking at the free market act on Bitcoin. All right, there's no one controlling it. It's purely a supply and demand market with Bitcoin. So if you see the price go up, it's because there's more demand than there is a supply at the time. If you see the price go down, it's because there's more of a supply, because more people want to sell, and there's less of a demand. So it's a free market, so it can't be shut down. However, Bitcoin and those cryptocurrencies, there's a lot of cryptocurrencies and what are called altcoins, alternate coins, that are in the system, but a lot of those will not survive. They come and go all the time, but your big players like Ethereum, Bitcoin, Litecoin, even Digibyte, things like that, they're going to stick around for a while because they serve a purpose and they're actually being used. I actually, on my live stream today, I compared cryptocurrencies today to like credit cards 40 years ago when they first came out. So when credit cards were first coming out, like in the early 70s, they were coming out to like the mainstream, to like the public. Right. Because before then they had like, I think it was called the Players or something like that, credit card that like the elite had, rich people had. But when they started coming out to the public, a lot of people at that time were like, there's no way I'm going to use this. This is ridiculous. This is just a piece of plastic. I'm not going to use that. And those same people that said that 50 years ago, or however long ago it was, today they're using credit cards. Why? Because today you pretty much need a credit card to live, to interact in society. And I know I always have a few people that say, well, I don't use a credit card. I still write checks. Yes, but that's the minority. That is the very small minority that still don't use them. But if you want to rent a car, you need a credit. If you want to make a reservation for a hotel, you need a credit card. If you want to get an airline ticket, you need a credit card. How many people do you see paying cash for an airline ticket? Right? I haven't seen one yet, So you need a credit card. So the same thing is going to happen with cryptocurrencies. In our lifetime, within the next generation, within the next 15 to 20 years or so, cryptocurrencies will be a normal part of our lives. And we're going to be using them because to not use them is going to be a very big nuisance. Just like now, if you got rid of all your credit card, it would be a nuisance. Right. Because you wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that you can do on a regular basis without them. So in 10, 15 years, cryptocurrencies, in my opinion, is going to be part of everyday life. People are going to be able to use them, and they're going to use them to shop and all that kind of stuff. Now, am I saying this because I want that to happen? No. I wish everything would just stay the same like with cash. Just use cash, and preferably the cash, the currency would be backed up by a bimetal backing, silver and gold, so that way that the governments wouldn't be able to abuse it and all that kind of stuff, right? And we wouldn't lose our purchasing power the way that we do now. I would prefer that. But you have to be a realist. The technological world that we live in today, cryptocurrencies, in my opinion, are part of our future, and they're not going anywhere. And in the last few months, I am more convinced that they will be. And the reason is because of this. Institutional money is getting into Bitcoin. And what I mean about that is you have pension plans getting into Bitcoin, right? Against a hedge against the dollar, actually. You have, of course, everyone's already heard that Elon Musk just purchased $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. Yeah. Right. So now that all of these institutional players are getting into Bitcoin, I'm very certain that it's solid. It's concrete. It's not going anywhere. Why is that? Let me ask you that question. Why is that? Who buys the politicians? Yeah. Right. So you have all of these multi-billion-dollar corporations getting into Bitcoin. Who pays off the politicians? There you go. Bitcoin's not going anywhere. Bitcoin is here to stay. So I would say that if at the very least, go open yourself an account on Coinbase or something like that, wherever you want to go. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not a financial advisor, ladies and gentlemen. Go open yourself an account on Coinbase. I think they give you like $10 of Bitcoin for free, which is nothing. But go ahead and open an account. Buy yourselves $100 worth of Bitcoin or whatever, and play around with it. Get a wallet on your get a digital wallet on your phone. Learn how to send some Bitcoin from your Coinbase account to your wallet. That way you know how to do it. That way, when the day comes where you're going to need to use it, you'll know how to use it. And in my estimation, the party on cryptocurrencies has just begun. I know we've seen it shoot up really quick here in the last few months. And I don't know if it was 2 or 3 live streams ago, but I said that this year I see Bitcoin hitting anywhere between $70,000 to $100,000 per coin.
Wow.
Right. And I think that's being pretty conservative, to tell you the truth. If every institutional buyer put 10% of their available capital into Bitcoin right now, Bitcoin would probably go up to about $150,000. And they're all thinking about it. They are all thinking about it because the dollar is losing value at such a fast rate that they need to protect their stockholders and the people that they work for. So yeah, Bitcoin's not going anywhere. And to give you a real simple taste of what Bitcoin is, it's just a blockchain. And what a blockchain is just a ledger. It's a two-sided ledger. You know, it's the simplest of accounting when it comes to Bitcoin. You have an in and you have an out. And that in and that out cannot be manipulated. So for example, let's say I have a Bitcoin on this side of the ledger and somebody wants me to send them that Bitcoin. Once I send it to them, it's out of my ledger. So I can't duplicate them. There's no way to duplicate 2 Bitcoins like they do with the dollar, like they do with hedge funds, like they do with gold paper ETFs. They say that there's $1 billion worth of, that there's 1 billion ounces worth of silver out in the market when only maybe 1,000 ounces exist. You can't do that with Bitcoin. It's what's called a trustless system, meaning that you don't have to trust it because the mathematics is there. Whereas you have to trust a dollar. The dollar is a trust-based system. It is something that you have to have confidence in order for it to exist. With Bitcoin, you don't have to have any confidence in it because it is what it is. Like, for example, an ounce of silver. I don't have to have confidence in what silver's value is because silver has its value within itself. So there is no confidence in silver. You don't need to have confidence in it because it is what it is. Whereas the dollar, fiat currencies, you have to have confidence in those things because the value in them is promised to you. It's not actually there. So yeah, Bitcoin is going to be here. It's going to be here to stay. I would say that if someone was smart, they'd at least learn about it. And the best way to learn about it is the way I learned about it. Get on YouTube, get to the search tab, and type in, what is Bitcoin? Type in, what is Bitcoin, and start watching videos from the beginning. You'll learn what it is, and then you'll wake up to the fact of why it is that governments hate it. Governments have been trying to stop Bitcoin since its inception, since it started going up in value. At first, they thought it was a joke, so they laughed at it. And then once they saw that it's not a joke, they've been fighting it ever since. And you know what they say? That first they laugh at you, then they fight you, then they lose. And they're going to lose because a lot of governments throughout the world have been trying to stop Bitcoin, and you can't stop it because it's decentralized. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. You see a lot of hit pieces coming out all the time on Bitcoin. Janet Yellen just said, we're going to have to investigate Bitcoin because this can be used for malfeasance, right? It can be used for money laundering, this and that. But what they don't tell you is that there is money laundering and malfeasance with Bitcoin because it's a currency. About but listen to this, about 0.04% of all of the Bitcoin that is traded every year is used for bad things, right? 0.04%, which is really nothing. It's maybe in the billions of dollars. You know how many dollars are used every year for money laundering and criminal activity? Over $2 trillion a year are used for money laundering and criminal activity. So they like to tell you what they want you to hear, That way they can fulfill their agenda. So yeah, Bitcoin is here to stay. There's no way they're going to stop it. They may try to tax it. They may try to regulate it and all these things, but it's a decentralized currency. They're not going to succeed. They're going to try very hard, but they won't succeed in the end. Bitcoin is actually an honest currency. And for people that ask, where does Bitcoin get its value from? That's a great question. In order for a Bitcoin to be born, Bitcoins are born, they have to be mined, but they're mined with computers instead of machinery, right? So every time that you do a Bitcoin transaction, let's say that I want to buy, which I got a funny story about 3 years ago, when 3 or 4 years ago, when Bitcoin was like $700 a Bitcoin, I wanted to see how it works. So I bought 10 ounces of silver online with $200 and something worth of Bitcoin. Well, had I kept that $200 and something worth of Bitcoin at that time when it was worth $700, right now that Bitcoin that I used to buy that 10 ounces of silver would have been worth about $15,000.
Wow.
So it's a deflationary currency, is what it is, right? So so yeah, man, it's here to stay. People just need to be ahead of the train and at least learn about it. That way, when the day comes that they're going to need to use it, they can know how to use it. And like I said, I almost got off subject here. A Bitcoin is mine. So if I do a transaction, let's say I go online and I go to buy that silver, right? That transaction has to be validated. And the way that it is validated is through a mathematical problem. It's a mathematical problem that needs to be solved in order for my transaction to be validated. So you have miners all over the world, hundreds of thousands of miners. And what I mean by miners is people that actually invested in equipment, put it in their basement, in their office, whatever, and they go ahead and they get into the interweb and they mine and they try to solve that mathematical problem that needs to be solved in order for my transaction to be validated. And I think with Bitcoin, you need like 6 or 9 validations before it's actually, approved, right? The transaction is approved. So whoever solves that mathematical equation first wins. So whatever miner out there with their computer rig solves that first wins. So what happens is that through competition, people get faster and faster and faster computers to try and outdo their competition, and they do it faster and faster, and then whoever mines it wins. And how do they get paid? They get paid in newly mined Bitcoin. That's how they get paid. So those miners out there, they're the ones that are actually keeping the system up, and they are compensated with Bitcoin. And like I said, Bitcoin is a deflationary currency, meaning that once roughly 21 million Bitcoin are mined, there's no more. That's it. There's no more. So if you have a Bitcoin and you lose your password or you lose your key, your key every Bitcoin has a key. It's like a number. Everyone has a key and it has a unique number. If you lose that, it's lost. It's lost. You lost it. There's no FDIC. It's big boy games, right? People want to be free, but they don't want to take responsibility, right? It's big boy games. If you lose $100 bill, right, and you can't find it, it's lost, right? If you lose a Bitcoin or a part of a Bitcoin, or it's called Satoshis. It goes to the 8th decimal place. So there's like 10 million Satoshis per Bitcoin. So if you lose your Bitcoin, you're part of Bitcoin, you lost it. So you have to be responsible, learn how to use the system, and then be careful when you use it. And it's a very freeing thing because no one can stop you from using it. So people just need to learn it. Learn it, mess around with it. If you have an extra $100, go get $100 worth of Bitcoin and learn how to use it. Whether you want to, I don't consider myself an investor. I'm not an investor in anything, right? I buy silver and gold as a hedge against the devaluation of the dollar and as a hedge against our government. So that way, when they default, I am not out of everything that I saved my entire life. I have something that's real. I get Bitcoin as a hedge. I like to diversify. I get Bitcoin as a hedge against the dollar and against my metals. What if something happens that I can't use my metals? What if something happens where I have to go somewhere and I can't use my metals or take them with Bitcoin? All you have to do is remember a password, and that's it. And you can get on any computer anywhere in the world. You have a password, you have a cell phone, you're good to go. All right. So I like to hedge myself. So I don't consider myself an investor. I just like to use those vehicles to conserve the purchasing power of my labor that I work for. That's why I get it for. Now, a disclaimer. Yeah, I do dabble a little bit. I have an account with a little bit of Bitcoin in it that I like to buy and sell and try to make that account grow. But that's just to play. If that account went away tomorrow, no big deal. I hold most of my cryptocurrencies in what's called a hardware wallet. It's called a Trezor. It's like a little thumb drive that has all of your actual keys in it. They actually take the keys out of the internet and put them in the thumb drive. And I'm the only one that has that. And and that's how I keep it. So I keep about 5% of what I have in the market so I can play with it. And if something ever happens where everything gets wiped out in the market, I still have the bulk of my, cryptocurrencies in my hardware wallet. So we're getting a little bit advanced there with hardware wallets and all that stuff. But I just recommend anyone that wants to know about that stuff, get on YouTube, what is Bitcoin, and begin your journey into understanding what Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are.
Well, it's funny you say that. I remember years ago, I watched a documentary, and it was in another country, and they had like just a team of people 24 hours that were mining Bitcoins. It was just rows and rows of servers, and that's all they did, day and night, day and night, and day and night.
Yep. And you know what? Venezuela mines Bitcoin. Iran mines Bitcoin. China mines Bitcoin. Russia mines Bitcoin. Most governments around the world that maybe we don't like very much, they mine Bitcoin. You know why? Because you don't need the permission of the US government to do bilateral transactions with Bitcoin. So do you know what the SWIFT system is?
I've never heard of it, no.
The SWIFT system is the financial system that is used throughout the world to transact in dollars. So for example, let's say that India wants to buy oil from Saudi Arabia. They need to pay them in dollars, and they need to send them those dollars through the SWIFT system. All right, that's all it is. So if the United States does not like you, they can kick you off the SWIFT system.
Ah, okay.
Guess who they kicked off the SWIFT system? Venezuela. Guess who they kicked off the SWIFT system? Iran. China hasn't been kicked off the SWIFT system, but they're thinking ahead. Russia's thinking ahead because they're like, well, eventually the US is going to use the SWIFT system, the power of the dollar, to disenfranchise us. We need to find a way around it. So Bitcoin is a way to get around those sanctions. Now, I'm not promoting any country or any malfeasance by anyone. However, I feel that when it comes to trade, everyone should be able to freely trade. Because if we are truly free, it doesn't matter whether you like the owner of the supermarket that you go to. If you go to that supermarket with a $20 bill, you should be able to buy something there, whether you like the owner or not, or whether he likes you or not. So if I want to buy something from so-and-so place, I should be able to do so freely without my government saying, I don't like that country, so you can't buy from them. So now that's what they're doing. They're mining Bitcoin, and they're finding different ways, alternate ways in which they can bypass the SWIFT system and do unilateral trade. And that's going to hurt the dollar. It is actually hurting the dollar. I mean, the use of the dollar worldwide has been decreasing consistently over the last few years. And the less dollars that are used, the less that our dollar will be worth, because the less in demand that our dollar will be in. So
there's a prediction floating around out there that 2025 is the year that basically the stock market is going to fall, and that the dollar is basically going to fall apart in regards to people's 401ks and all that stuff.
Oh man, I think are we frozen on the screen?
No, we look good. Everything looks fine.
Okay, because I'm frozen over here. But that's right. If we're not frozen, we can just carry on.
Yeah, not a problem.
Oh, there's a prediction out there. Well, you know what I mean? The thing is that whenever you put a time on something, it never pans out. So the only thing I have to say about that is that this system will end. It's going to end eventually. This system died in 2008. It's just a matter of pulling the plugs from the wall. All right, that's all it is. So eventually this system will die. can't put a date on it. That's why I prepare. If I knew what date it was going to be, I just wait before it, a month or two before it, and then prep up then. But you can't put a date on it. So that's why we prep, because we don't know when it's going to happen or what is going to happen.
Now you're talking about quantitative easing back in 2008, right?
Well, I mean, quantitative easing has never stopped. What I mean by that, the system died in 2008, is that the system did die. They just kept it on life support, right? Like when someone goes on life support because they're brain dead.
Right.
The system went brain dead in 2008, and it's been on life support ever since. And yes, quantitative easing and the manipulation of the interest rates, those are some of the ways that they've used to keep the system on life support.
Quite interesting. Quite interesting. I got a text from someone he said I should ask you the spam question.
Is Angry Prepper in the house? If Angry Prepper's in the house, I don't know if I should answer that.
I don't think so. I'll double check.
Well, I mean, you watch my videos. I love spam.
Yeah. I've tried it myself. You know what I mean? It's not something that I look forward to eating, but in a worst case scenario, it's food. It's nutrition.
Oh, no, not me, man. To me, I eat it because I like it. Okay.
Oh, really?
So don't anybody out there be talking bad about spam, all right?
That's great. That is awesome, man. I was going to tell you something else I picked up on. You said a while back. Where was it at? I have a note here. You were talking about how the middle class is going to be dissolved, and it's going to be a two-class system, and about the police state and stuff like that, which kind of struck me, and I kind of see that coming to light now as well.
Yeah. That's the plan. That's the plan, brother. The plan is, all you have to do is look at history. Okay, I'm not telling you something that I just thought of. I wish I was that smart, but I'm not. All you have to do is look at history. It's a cycle. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. I forgot what the name of the cycle is. I think it's called the Kepler cycle or something like that. But have you ever heard that strong men make good times, and then good times make weak men, and then weak men make bad times, and then bad times make strong men? It's kind of like that. It's not the exact same thing, but it's a cycle that humanity goes through because we refuse to learn from history. So we continue to repeat history over and over again. And it's a cycle, and that's exactly what they're doing right now, or what they have been doing for the last year or so with this health crisis that's been going on, all right, or the effects of the health crisis. They want to get rid of the middle class, because as soon as they get rid of the middle class, guess what? They can come in with the UBI, with the universal basic income, get everybody hooked on free money, which is not really free, because you will end up giving up your sovereignty for that free money. And in the end, you're going to end up with a class of elites and a class of the serfs. And guess what? In the middle, like I said before, there will be a police state that will enforce the will of the upper class onto the lower class. And then eventually the lower class will get sick of it. And guess what happens? The cycle starts all over again.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. I mean, it happened in 1774. Right? And then 1774 was the end of that cycle. They got sick of it. They got sick of somebody from, across the pond telling them how to live their lives. And finally they said, no, we've had enough. And then guess what happened? 1776 happened. So it's just a cycle, and it's going to happen again. When I talk about this, you might see like a small smile or smirk on my face. It's not because I want it to happen. It's because causation is not correlation. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen because of something specific that happens, right? It's going to happen because it's part of the cycle. So right now I'm going through this book, the Great Depression, a Diary by Benjamin Roth. And I've been putting up a couple of videos on, just going through the books and telling people what's been happening throughout the book and seeing the similarities between that time and the Great Depression and today. Well, yesterday I was taking some notes for my next video, and back in 1932, I think it was, guess what happened at the Capitol in 1932? I think it was 32 or 33. At the Capitol in 32, it got rushed. The Capitol got rushed in 1932 or 33. Same thing that just happened a couple of weeks ago.
It's funny you say that. I did a video not too long ago, History 101, and it's actually been rushed 6 or 7 times throughout history by different people in different parties.
Yeah.
And it was pretty interesting reading about that, how the news media did not mention it. They just centered on the 6th as this is the first time in history since back in the was it the 1800s or something like that?
No, it was back in the 30s. And 30s it got rushed. I mean, the story behind it is that back in the 30s during the Great Depression, we had about I don't know, several thousand veterans that came back from World War I, and the government had promised them $1,000, a $1,000 payment in 1945. Well,
Right.
they went to the Capitol and they said, "Hey, we want our payments now because we need it now." Well, they didn't want to give them their payments. What did they do? They went over there, they rushed, they camped out and they protested and all that stuff. Then they ended up rushing the Capitol. I think a few people, lost their lives there. Then they actually brought in the military to get rid of them. So yeah, but the point of the matter is that it doesn't matter why it happened. What matters is that it's part of a cycle, and it happened before, and it'll happen again, just like it did.
I was trying to find my notes, but I have so many because I wanted to see if I could find that information. But yeah, I mean, also there was a time some Puerto Rican, I think it was there were a group of Puerto Ricans that they went into the Capitol and they attacked because they wanted to prevent them from becoming a part of the U.S. or something like that.
Right.
So they had got in there as well. There was several other events. And I wish I had my notes because I like to be specific. So I'm not going to
GreyMan
out there. Yes, sir.
Hey, can you give me a second? I'm going to go ahead and leave and come right back.
Okay, that's fine.
Right, because right now I'm talking to like a blank screen, and it's kind of distracting. All right, so I'm going to leave and come right back.
Okay. What's up, everybody? I want to say thank you to everybody for being here as well. Rudy is full of information, man. He has a lot of information to bring to the table. So that's why I'm kind of picking his brain on things like that, things that have piqued my interest. And it's just, he's just like that guy that he has just so much information that you want to pick his brain for. I mean, in regards to food, gold and silver, the economy and history and stuff like that, man. Pretty impressive, man. And that's why I enjoy having these conversations with Rudy himself. We are at about 42 minutes or so like that. I have a couple more things I want to ask him. And then we'll dive into a few stuff like that through the chat while I get some questions answered there. So just to let you guys know that I am paying attention to you guys, but I'm just focusing on Rudy right now because I have lots of questions for him.
You know what, man? I told you that if we can keep it to about an hour, but man, I'm having such a good time because I love to talk. so I'm willing to stay on until you call it good. Right.
All right. Well, like I said, a couple other things where I said where we just left off on the Capitol building.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Capitol building, you had made a prediction, and your prediction is currently holding true about civil unrest. You said there will be a little bit of a lull, and then civil unrest will come back. And matter of fact, I just saw last night that they're still doing their thing in Portland and marching and all the other stuff like that currently. So it has not gone away yet. I have noticed that as well. Government reliance. I know you were talking about. So another thing I wanted to touch on, because you know a lot about food storage and different types of foods and things of that nature. I was wondering, and maybe because I haven't had time to watch every single video out there that you've done, but gardening tips, because me and my wife are starting to get into gardening. I know it's different from Alaska and different in Florida, but any tips in regards to getting into that whole gardening field?
Well, start slow. I can't give you too many tips because I haven't really ever planted a large garden.
Okay.
This year and last year, I started really slow. Actually, last year was the first time that I'd ever gotten into any kind of gardening at all. And the reason being is because me and Victor built our house. Mm-hmm. And we've been working on it ever since we moved into it. And last year, we were almost done. We're almost done with everything, but I spent most of my time during the non-winter months finishing all of the things that we needed to finish. Right. And I really haven't put any time into homesteading. But one of my goals is to make a little homestead out of my backyard. And last year I planted some potatoes just to see if they would grow. And it turned out great. It was a great little experiment. I actually learned a lot from it. This year, I think I only yielded about 12 pounds of potatoes, but it was only out of 6 seed potatoes. So 6 seed potatoes gave me about 12 pounds. And I learned through doing that, I learned that I could actually do some things different. Oh, you're right. No, go ahead, man. I'll be back.
I'm just stretching.
Oh, go ahead. All right. Yeah. Through doing that, I learned that if I did some things a little bit different, that if I tweaked the way in which I did it, that I could yield about twice as much. So this year, I'm going to go ahead and implement the lessons learned from last year, and I'm going to go ahead and plant about 50 times as much. I'm going to probably plant about 50 to 100 grow bags of potatoes. My goal is to get at least 100 to 120 pounds of potatoes this year. That's going to be like my main gardening food that I'm going to try to grow is potatoes, because you can actually live on potatoes if you have to. So my goal this year is to get at least 10 times more than what I did last year. And then I'm also going to go ahead and dabble with some other things like tomatoes, green beans, peas, things like that, and peppers, things like that, so that I can learn how to grow those and then maybe ramp up my production next year. So every year, just add a little bit more every year. Don't try to overwhelm yourself. And even if you don't know how to garden or have never gardened, go get as many gardening seeds as you can. Go stock up on them just like you stock up on food. I always say that I like to have more years of seeds than what I need. So for example, let's say that you want to have 2 or 3 years worth of seeds. I would say 4 or 5. I have about 10 years worth of seeds for 10 plantings. And the reason I do that is let's say you only have 2 years worth of seeds to plant, which seems kind of reasonable. But let's say that you plant a garden this year and your garden is doing great. But halfway through the season, before your plants mature and you can harvest them, you have a hurricane, or you have a flood, or you have an infestation of rabbits or field mice that devour your crops. If you didn't bother to put away extra seeds, then where are you going to get the seeds to replace that crop that you just lost? So have as many seeds as you can possibly put away. It's a great investment in your own security, in your own food security. It's just as important, I feel, than having actual food put away. And that's why you put food away. If you lose a harvest during a year, you have food put away to get you through to the next harvest, so that you can do a replant.
That I have been doing. We have been buying tons and tons of seeds every time we see them available. Trying to focus more on the heirloom seeds, but we also just buy seeds in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vacuum sealing them because I found out that doesn't hurt them. It actually preserves them a little bit better.
Yeah.
So we've been doing that as well. And then, like I said, I've been watching your channel for quite some time, and every month I buy a couple of these, which you're probably very familiar with.
Good, outstanding.
Yeah, they're very helpful. And my wife thinks it's great. Because I always tell everybody, everybody's like, well, I don't have enough money to do this or money to do that. And I've been saying, look, every month I buy just a little bit of this. I take a little bit each and I buy more and more and more. Eventually you'll see a whole wall of things of food or freeze dried or whatever you're doing. I always wanted to show this to you. I showed it to a couple people on the channel. You convinced me to do this one time, and I bought this because you had went through this whole thing on there.
Oh, isn't that a good flashlight?
Yes, I was amazed at the quality.
It's a great flashlight, and they're cheap. What was it? 2 of them for like $15?
Yeah, I got 2 flashlights, 4 batteries, and a charger for like it was like $22. I was shocked.
Yep, and I actually have that exact same flashlight on my over here in the room, in my mud room, and that's a great flashlight. What I like about it the most, besides that it really works well, is that if I break it, I'm buying another one for $7 or $8.
Yeah,
it's a great flashlight to have.
Agreed. And I don't know if you've seen me before, but a lot of people, they see me vape. I use e-cigarettes, and inside these things, they take the same batteries as a lot of flashlights.
16850s, 16850s, right?
Yes, I have so many of them. It's ridiculous, and multiple chargers. I've been in the business for so long, so it kind of meshed well together. I thought was pretty interesting. But yeah, so I just wanted to show you those few things. I've always wanted to say thank you for, I've tried ReadyWise. and I've tried Patriot Supply and a couple others, and they're okay. You know, I use Mountain House in my get home bag as just because they're really easy to throw in there and whatnot. But for my long-term food storage, when we opened the first one up that we got a while back, it's been about 6 months since we were doing this on the Augustin's farm. The food just tastes good, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, you know, some people don't like it, and that's okay. What I say is, whatever you buy, whatever you purchase, make sure you try it. Make sure you try it before you purchase some more. Because the worst, you know, if you think about it, if you have to break into your long-term food storage, it's because the situation is already stressful. Why put yourself through more stress by having to feed your kids something that they have to hold their nose to eat? Get something. If you get something like that, make sure that you try it. Don't just put it away and not try it. Make sure. I hear that so many times, or I read it so many times in the comment section. Whenever I review something, someone will say, "I'm so glad you reviewed this because I've had a few cans of these for 3 years, but I've never tried them." I'm like, you should only buy one of something, try it, and then if you like it, man, go to town. Get as many as you like because you know you're going to use it.
Yeah, I bought when I first got that, I bought that, and then at my local, I think Bass Pro, they had some Ready Wise, and Walmart has the Mountain House. So I was kind of buying a bunch of different ones to try, and I just like specifically their breakfast stuff. I really like their breakfast stuff.
Good.
But it's and they're a lot more affordable than people think they are. I don't know, for at least from where I'm buying them at, you know what I mean? I tried to go to their website when they have sales, but usually they're sold out. So I'll go to Amazon, unfortunately, but it's stocking up on it, and I enjoy
a little bit at a time, man. Slow and steady wins the race. That's what people don't understand. We live in a society where people want instant gratification. If I don't have a year's supply of food, then I'm not even going to bother. No, get yourself a little bit at a time, and eventually you'll have that year's supply. Slow and steady wins the race. That's the best way to do it. It won't be, when you do it slowly, it's not a hard impact on your finances. You're spending a little bit of money, every month or however you budget it, instead of going out there and spending $5,000 on a year's worth of food.
Right.
So slow and steady wins the race. I've always gone by that. It's true.
Very smart concept. And I've been telling, as people that know me, they've been watching my videos, like locals that know me, and they've been like, well, how did you do it? And I said, I started slow. I said, whenever I go to the store and I'm like, okay, I need to buy a few cans of, let's say, some soups or something like that, and they're on sale, buy one, get one. I said, well, I'll take advantage of that and save some money there. And then I'll take the ones that I got for free, or technically for free, and I put them on my thing, and I keep a rotation running to make sure everything is, dates. I've taken the cans with the black marker now, and I write the date really big so I don't have
there you go.
And it makes it easier to see that in rotation process and stuff like that. So,
hey, GreyMan, when are you going to start canning, man?
Mawberry and Angry had this setup. I forget the name of it, and they had mentioned it to me, and because I was very nervous about canning, and my wife, she's been trying to push it with me as well. She's like, well, we should try. And
yes, do it.
I forget the machine that they have. I don't know if they're in chat or not, but maybe they might say. But
what is it? An electric canner?
It's like a pressure canner or something like that. They put it inside of a thing. God, I wish I could remember that. Oh, sweet potatoes. Yeah. I don't know, Mawberry. Can you throw in that canner thing that you and Angry have up? Oh, the Presto. Angry is in chat. He said the Presto.
Oh, a Presto, yeah. I mean, I have a Presto. Those things. It's really not difficult to do it. I mean, this is what I tell people that have never canned before. Go take a look at my last canning video where I did some beef. Because it's the easiest thing to can. Beef and beans are the easiest things to can. Actually, beans are even easy, right? I save a lot of money. I don't buy beans in a can. I've got some that I bought in the past, but I stopped buying them because you can, save a lot of money by just canning your own beans and using them. You save a lot of money doing that. But beans and beef are the easiest things to can. You do it with beef. The reason I recommend that you do it with beef first is because once you're done, I want you to take one of those jars of beef that you canned and use it. And you're going to love it. You're going to be like, wow, this tastes so good. And once you do that and you know that you succeeded in doing it and you see that it actually tastes really good, you're going to keep doing it because you know it works. So you ought to try it at least once. Do you have a pressure canner?
No, not yet. That's why I've been looking at the Presto, because everybody says it's like safe. You know, a lot of people are worried about things
Yeah.
exploding and
No,
botulism.
it's a good pressure canner. I mean, of course, if you want something that's going to last your lifetime, you're going to go ahead and get the All American, but they're pricey.
All
The
American.
Presto is a good pressure canner. Actually, the Presto was my very first pressure canner I ever bought. Was a
Okay.
Presto 23 quart, and then after that, I bought an All American, and then after that, I bought my favorite pressure canner, which is the T-Fall. It's a dummy-proof pressure canner. It's very easy to use. It doesn't make a lot of noise. It doesn't make that hissing noise like
Okay.
regular pressure canners make, and it just works great. But it doesn't matter what I use. Get something that you can use that you're comfortable with. It's going to be the same result. You're going to end up getting something that's pressure can that's going to last you literally more than a decade on your shelf once you do it.
I saw something in chat while we were talking, and so I wanted to ask you, because I do. My wife is doing this right now. Do you, you know, in regards back, kind of jumping back a little bit to the gardening thing? I forgot who said it. I should have wrote their name down. But do you ever do anything with medicinal herbs? You know, like you know, let's say chamomile, lavender, you know, lemongrass, stuff like that. Have you ever tried to
No,
experiment?
no, I don't. You know, I don't. And that's the thing about prepping is prepping is so multifaceted
Mm-hmm.
that there is so much that, you know, like our forefathers, those people were studs because they did all of this. They lived it. You know, they knew they had to know all about herbs. They had to know all about, you know, all about taking care of a wound. They had to know how to preserve. They had to know how to garden and farm. They had to know how to take care of animals and do veterinary, you know, do animal veterinary stuff. You know, they
Right.
had to learn all that stuff. But no, you know, there's just so many things that you need to know that I try to stick to the things that I'm comfortable with. And then I hope that I've got enough preps put away that should I need something that I don't have, that I can barter for.
Okay.
You know, so like all of those medicinal herbs and stuff, you know. So I, for example, for medicine, right? For the second B of prepping, I try to have all of those things in stock that I think I would need and that I already use on a regular basis, right? And then hopefully that stock, should something happen where I can't get it anymore, hopefully that'll last me a while. And one of the things that prepping does for you is it gives you time to react.
Mm-hmm.
So if I know that there's no medical services available and they're not going to be available for a long time, while I'm going through my stock of medical stuff, I'm already thinking, what am I going to do if this happens and I run out of this? See, preparedness gives you time to react instead of reacting in a NERC-G reaction, you know, way. And instead of, you know, reacting out of emotion, you can actually react and think about stuff. So no, there's a lot of things that I don't do that I just don't have the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like for example, I really would love to learn about ham radio. But you know, we were talking before we went on live. We were talking. I was like, next week I'm not gonna do anything because I've got this today, this tomorrow, the next day, and then after that, you know. So I'm like, yeah, you're not gonna have time to know everything. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's very important to have not only all your preps, but have extra stuff that you can barter for. That way you can use it to barter for something that maybe you don't have the skill to do, or maybe something that you forgot to prep.
No, I agree. Time is of the essence. I actually have a job as well, you know, and then I have a family, of course, and then prepping, and then YouTube. Like I think Grim had a live after yours, and I think someone mentioned in there that YouTube is almost like a full-time job, and the amount of time that you have to put into
Yeah, it is.
So it can be very
Yeah,
time.
a lot of people don't understand that. And, you know, and when I say this, I'm not patting myself on the back or anyone, but I figured that, at least for myself, right? I figured that for about every 15-minute video you put up, you've got about 3 hours into it.
Yeah.
So like today I posted a video making chicharrones. Have you seen that video?
No,
I made chicharrones, right? It's a 6.5 minute video, 7 hours.
Wow.
Right? It took me 7 hours from start to finish. You know, as far as making it and preparing it and then taking the video and editing it and all that stuff, 6-7 hours to do it, right? It's a 6.5 minute video. So, not every video is like that, but I think it averages out to about, 3 hours or so for about every 15 minutes that you put into that you actually publish. So yeah, it's a lot. There's times where I come down here and I don't really complain about this because the only reason I do YouTube is because I really enjoy it.
Right.
And I told my wife, and I've said it before, the day that this becomes a job, that I feel like it's a job, like, oh man, I have to go down here and do this now and edit this video, then I'm done.
Right.
Because I left the rat race because I want to be free. So, now that I'm doing what I want to do, I'm happy doing it and I enjoy doing it. So I don't complain about it because it's something that I like to do. I love the interaction between, the community members and the other prepper channels and things like that. I love that stuff. I'm a social person. I like to interact with people. So I like doing it. I enjoy doing it. And, the day that it becomes a job, I'll stop doing it. I've received a few, I've received a few offers from like businesses that want to come and record you and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it, because then it's going to be someone telling me what to do. And I don't want someone telling me what to do. If not, I'm not going to enjoy doing it. So yeah. I mean, it's, you really have to like to do it in order for you to get ahead doing it. Because if you're doing a YouTube channel and it's just because, eventually you start making a few dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing a YouTube channel just for the money, people will know that. People will be able to see through that, right? And depending on how good you are at what you're doing it, maybe a lot of people will stay and watch. But, and people get to see, I think that if you're just yourself and you do the things that you're going to do anyways, and you just want to share with people and you treat people with kindness, I think you'll be successful, But if you're just trying to get a buck, eventually it's just going to be spoiled and probably won't do that great.
No, I'll be honest with you, brother. There's lots of reasons why I wanted to do it. And one of it is because I do enjoy it. And when it comes to the finances, I'm not monetized yet. It's moving a lot faster than I expected. But it also, when I go out, like I said today, I spent 4 hours out in the woods doing video for just for what I did today on YouTube. And then I bring it home and I break it down and do another hour or two doing that. So maybe let's say 6 hours for, I think I did maybe a 9 to 10 minute video. But every time I go out there, I'm also learning and applying skills at stuff that I'm showing.
Yeah.
So it helps me stay on my toes. So if I do make
before I started doing YouTube, I didn't know anything about solar generators or solar. And now I know a lot about that stuff. And one of the main reasons why I know a lot about it is because I get a lot of questions. And a lot of questions I may not know the answer to. I go and research it. So at the same time that I'm helping someone else, I'm helping myself because I'm learning. So, I think it's a win-win, Yeah,
I get a lot of medical questions because a lot of people know I was a medic in the military. And I try to answer some, but some of them I don't want to give too much information because there's a liability associated with that.
Yeah.
But one of these days I'm going to probably do a video on my full-size med bag. And the reason I say that is I want to show what's in there, because here's the thing with a medical bag of that size versus an IFAC. I'm assuming Rudy, what an IFAC is, of course. Is in the full-size med bag, I have everything from, surgical stuff on down to CPR and stuff for diabetics and everything. If there's something that I can't do in a shift event and I run into a situation and there happens to be a doctor or someone who's a nurse or someone out there that can use equipment, they may not have it, that's a benefit to the situation.
Outstanding, man. I mean, I'm 100% with you. My medical kit, I have two. I have one that I keep in the car and I have in the truck, and one that I keep here in the house. I actually have a small surgical kit there that you can actually perform surgery with it. I'm not a surgeon, I'm not a doctor, but when I was showing that kit, that's what I told people. I said, look, I don't know how to use this. I'm not a doctor. However, somebody may know how to use it during a tough time. That, if we were in a really bad crisis, the doctors aren't going to disappear. The dentists aren't going to disappear. The EMTs aren't going to disappear. The nurses they're still going to be here. It's just a matter of do they have the equipment that they need to help you? And if they don't, guess what? You have it. So yeah, I'm all for that. You know, even if you don't know how to use it and you know that it's something that could benefit you in the long run, absolutely get it and put it in there. Yeah.
Agreed. I believe in the same philosophy as you in regards to, and I hope most preppers do, is I do everything in triplicates, sometimes a little bit more, you know, with, let's say, fire starting, let's say, you know, I have lighters, I have, you know, a ferro rod, I have, you know, a torch, I have multiple things to start fires with, and then multiple ways for building structures and, you know, all this stuff like that, because you never know when something might fail or it may not work correctly. So I believe in that.
Yeah.
Having
redundancy. That's what it's all about. Were you in the Army?
Yeah, I was this. It's when I was in, they called it different. It was a medic. I'm a medic, or was a medic. Sorry. Now they call it a 68 whiskey. When I was in the military, which was a long time ago, this was in the early 90s, 92, 93, or 93 when I got in, I depped in out of high school. They called it a 91 Bravo. That was the classification for a medic then. Now they've reclassified it to a 68 whiskey.
Well, I mean, if you were a medic in the Army, there's only one thing that you need in your medic bag. That's a tourniquet.
You might. I have. My wife thinks I'm tourniquet crazy because I can't have them everywhere. I have them in the car, the glove part.
I got a whole bunch.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Well, you know, when we used to go out on patrol, I always used to sit on the passenger side of the Humvee behind my command, behind my lieutenant. So the lieutenant was here and I was behind him. So I always used to keep a tourniquet back here on my arm, already in place, and one on my leg. So I always used to keep one in my arm and my leg. That way, if we got blown up, all I have to do is come around here and tighten it. Thank goodness, though, that I never needed them.
That's very smart, man. That's very smart. I never even thought about that. I do have one hooked to my passenger seat in my vehicle because if I get into an accident and I'm by myself, usually the passenger seat's here, so I can rip my IFAK open and get my tourniquet rolling.
Nice. Nice.
So I do have a method of what I'm doing in regards to just in case that happens. So, but yeah, let me see if I had some more questions for you. Oh, one thing I did want to, because I mean, I've chatted with you on chat before, but you know, you have this huge thing for Cuban food, from my understanding.
Well, I like Hispanic. I call it Dominican food because I think that most Hispanic food or Latin food, whatever you want to call it, most of it is pretty much the same. It just has a little twist depending on where you're from. Right. So, you know, like, for example, the way that I make my sofrito might be different than the way you make it, but it's still kind of like the same thing, right? It's just a base of flavors. Right. So they make, like, for example, in Mexico, they're really big on cumin. Right. Right. To flavor their foods. I'm not. Right. I'm not big on that. I'm big on adobo. I like adobo. Right. You know. So yeah. So you know, I call it Dominican food because I use the spices that my mom used when I was growing up. And my mom's Dominican, and you know that those are the spices that they use in Dominican Republic. So that's why I call it Dominican food. But I mean, rice and beans is rice and beans. What makes it different is what spices and vegetables you put in there to make it like your ethnicity's version of that dish. But no, yeah, man, I love Hispanic food. I love Dominican food. You know, I like it more than anything, really. I really like more of the soul food type, like the beef tail, you know, plantains. I like things like that more than anything, really. And which is kind of unfortunate because it's really hard to find up here. You know, finding some good plantains and juca and stuff like that is a little bit difficult up here. But every once in a while I find it. And when I do, you know, we definitely take advantage of it.
I wonder how hard it is to mail produce because being in Florida, we have plantains up the wazoo.
Oh, my goodness. And aguacates? Yes. You guys have the real avocados.
I have a plant.
You have the real aguacates. Yeah. Not those little things that look like a hockey puck. Oh, man, I'm so jealous, man.
I got a plant.
I wouldn't want you to do that, man. You know how expensive it would be to mail stuff from Florida all the way over here? That would be ridiculous.
Really? I didn't know. I figured since it's technically the U.S., it wouldn't cost.
No. My brother lives in. I have a brother that lives in Ohio, and he sent me some salchichon. You know what salchichon is? It's like a Dominican sausage. Yeah. He sent me like 4 of those. It cost him like $80.
Really? Holy
ridiculous. I told him, I was like, man, don't send me that anymore. I mean, I can't get them up here, and I love that stuff. But I'm like, you can't, he paid more to send me those than what they actually cost. So yeah,
Wow.
it's really expensive to mail stuff up here. That's why if you ever see me do any unboxings of like things that some of my community members send me, a lot of times I'm like, man, don't spend the money to send me this stuff, because I remember somebody sent me. I remember on one of my live streams I mentioned that I couldn't find any cranberry sauce for Thanksgiving, and somebody sent me 24 cans of cranberry sauce, and it
Wow.
cost them 106. It cost them $106.
Holy
I'm like,
cow.
I'm like, oh my goodness. And I told my wife, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to be careful what I say on my videos, because if I say something like that innocently, like, yeah, I couldn't find any cranberry. Somebody goes and spends $106 to send. And it's not like I don't appreciate it. I really appreciate it, but I feel bad because, they just spend so much money on getting me, that stuff. But it just goes to show the quality of the community members that reside over at the AP.
Speaking of that, I remember watching a video of yours just a while back, and you were opening I think they were just cards, and people were sending you cash in these cards.
Yeah.
And then you turned around and said, you know what I'm going to do with this? And you took it and you donated it to something. You were doing something at the time for a food bank, because I know you work with a lot of them in your area. And I was like, and then seeing that, to me, that was inspirational. Like in my head, I'm thinking, man, I'd love to do something.
Yeah, I tell people not to send me cash, because the thing is, but I remember getting an email from someone. She sent me $7, right? And she wrote me a letter. She said, I know it's only $7, but I want you to take this and put it towards the food bank. $7 is all I have left after the end of the month. So I'm sorry that it's only $7.
Wow.
I felt terrible. And I remember talking about it on a video, and she emailed me back and she said, take that $7 as a blessing, because it's a blessing to me that I have everything I need and I still have $7 to send you so that you can donate it to the food bank. And then someone else told me that in order to be a good giver, you have to be a good receiver. Okay. So I've learned a lot from my community members. I've learned how to be a better person because of that. And that's one thing that I truly appreciate. But I always tell people, don't send me cash, because, if they're sending cash, they more likely need it. But I've taken to that whenever I do get an envelope, like I just got an envelope about a week ago. It has $20 in it. And in the letter it said, this is so you can buy yourself a coffee and then you can donate to the food bank. And so I'm just gonna, the next time we make a donation to the food bank, I just make sure and actually the $20 is still in the envelope. I won't use it. So next time that we go to make a donation to the food bank, I'll put that $20 in there and I'll donate it. But it's this has been a very good journey for me. It has helped me grow a lot as a person, but it has also blessed so many others. And we've been able to help so many other people that I'm very appreciative of the people that call themselves AP community members.
Right.
And I'm appreciative of what they've allowed me to do. And that is to be able to give to others. Because I'll tell you what, man, I am the greatest beneficiary of doing those donation videos. Because, when you bring the food bank 1,700 pounds of food, to feed people that are hungry, it makes you feel great. And it really does. It makes you feel really good. So, I mean, I'm probably the biggest beneficiary from doing that. And and I'm very appreciative of everything that I've gained through the journey of what is YouTube. And I hope that we can continue to do it. I hope that this year we can rent a U-Haul and fill the U-Haul up and bring it to the food. Because the last food bank donation that we made, it bottomed out my truck.
I saw that.
Yeah, my truck was bottomed out. So I was like, man, maybe next time we'll rent a U-Haul. And that'll be awesome. If we can do that as a collective, as a bunch of people that can throw in $3 here, $10 there, because they have it, and then we can take that and turn it around and turn it into something positive that can help a whole bunch of people that actually need it. That's a great thing. That's a way of paying it forward that will be remembered by the people that it was paid forward to, and hopefully they'll be able to do it one day. And like I always said, that will make the world a better place. If everyone decided to do that, it would make the world a better place. And I think we'll get there eventually. I'm an optimist by nature, of course.
No, and I agree. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to get a P.O box, and I'm hoping what I hope to receive in the P.O box is, being that I'm just starting out, is just letters. I'd like to receive letters from people that that I may have helped out or gave some positive information or something that's useful to them, because it'd be cool to read that. Other than people leave a comment, I think to have a letter is to let you know that, hey, you're doing all right, man. We appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, it is. It's a great thing. I get emails all the time. And I love, every once in a while, I'll have a really bad comment that I have to, delete or block. And that kind of tends to set you back a little bit. And then I'll open my email and somebody will email me and say, hey, man, thank you so much for what you do. I started prepping in December, right before all this stuff started happening. And my family and I were okay. So thank you. And I'm like, man, you know what? That right there makes it all worth it. That makes it all worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I've had a couple bad things happen to me since I've started, and after reading some comments and people what they've said have made me a lot happier knowing that at least the majority of the people that I'm reaching are positive and like what I'm doing. So
yeah.
I'm going to
Well,
continue.
you're never going to make everyone happy. You're never going to be able to make anyone happy. That's why one of the pieces of advice that I give anyone that's starting a channel or has just started a channel is, don't ever change who you are because someone's telling you to, because you're never going to make anyone happy. And if you change who you are, you're going to make yourself miserable, and it's just not going to work. So if somebody doesn't like your style, if somebody doesn't like that you say ladies and gentlemen 25 times in every video, that's okay. They can go and shop for a channel somewhere else. They can go and find a channel where they don't say that. It's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with them. It just means that your personality and their personality don't mix. And that's okay, because we're all different. And that's a good thing that we're different. So if they have to go somewhere else because they don't like something, that's right. But don't change who you are. When I first, I don't know, about a year or so into it, people are complaining, oh, you say ladies and gentlemen so many things and so many times and this and that. I actually tried not to say it a lot. And I'm like, I can't do this. I have to say ladies and gentlemen. I can't do it. It's like, it's not natural. It wasn't natural for me to not do it. So now I've noticed every once in a while when I go on someone else's channel, like I think I went into the Urban Preppers channel here a while back, and I said, hey, how you doing, Cliff? And this and that. And someone's like, hey, that's the ladies and gentlemen's guy. So they recognize me by that ladies and gentlemen. So, just don't change who you are, man. Don't change the way you do things to try to please someone, because you're going to make yourself miserable and it's going to show. Just be who you are, and somebody doesn't like it, they can go somewhere, or you can help them by blocking them if they're a pain in the butt.
I respect that. And, I feel, I know Jason doesn't like hearing this, or maybe even you, is in a way I feel blessed. Okay. And the reason I say this is I've been doing this roughly for about 8 weeks, and people that I've been watching for quite some time, like Jason at the Angry Prepper and you, Rudy, I'm actually getting to talk to you guys face to face on a live.
Yeah, you're doing great, man. You're doing really well, man. That's great. I'm happy to hear that. As far as I'm concerned, man, the more the merrier, man. The more prepping channels out there, and the more channels out there that have a positive message to put out, the better. I don't think it's about competition. I think it's about putting out what you have to put out with a positive twist to it. And not everything is positive, but at least a realist twist to it. Because I've made some videos that weren't positive, that were like, man, this is gonna suck, right? But as long as you do what you're doing and you try to be positive about it and try to help people with it, the more the better. The world needs more of that. They need more of that and less kitty cat videos. They need more real people video, like real stuff videos. So I think the more the merrier, man, and that's great. I didn't know that you were only on for like 8 weeks. You're doing great, man. Good for you.
December 13th was my first video that I popped out.
Man. Good. Well, you know what? And that's the great thing, man, is that I'm glad that you did it. I remember I talked to John from Prepper Nation. I think I gave him a call for Thanksgiving, I think it was. And I was like, hey, listen, man, I just wanted to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And I want to say thank you very much for starting your channel.
That's
and awesome. He said, wow. I said, because had you never started your channel, I'd have never gotten to know John Davis.
Right.
And now I know you, you know, and the same thing with you. So that's great. I'm glad that you did start your channel. That's great.
Yeah, John was kind of some of the powering force behind that as well. I had emailed him or something, and he was just like, man, you just got to jump into it, man, and just go. You know what I mean? And I was like, I was talking to the wife, and she says, worst case scenario, you know, you get to have fun doing it. And
yeah.
You know, I've been doing a lot of more prepper based stuff, you know, just things out in the woods and medical stuff. And they don't rate as high as like the political and all the doom and gloom stuff, which is fine with me because I still enjoy doing that, and I rather stick with that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, every time I do a cooking show, I don't get anywhere as near as many views. But excuse me, if you make it about the views, man, then you've lost it.
Right.
You know, if you make it about how many views can I get, then you lost it, man. You're lost. You know, you make it about your community. You make it about trying to put out a good message, whether there's a positive or negative tone behind it. Because like I have a video coming out tomorrow about how, you know, they want to implement a digital currency, centralized digital currency, and then they want to give you your credit score via your browsing. So they're going to look at your browsing history to give you a credit score. But anyways, the video will come out tomorrow. So, but that's not a positive video, a happy video, but it's a realistic video. It's some information that people need to know about, because information is one of the best ways, if not the best way to prepare. Because without the right information, then what are you going to prep for?
Right.
You know, you need to have information in order to know, okay, I need to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that and less of this, because the information has changed. So yeah, I like to put out information videos, whether it be me reading an article or whether it be me, you know, talking about the book, you know, the Great Depression, a diary, or whether it be me just giving my opinion on why you need to prep and things like that.
I actually ordered a book the other day that you had talked about. It was Confessions of an Economic Hitman called.
Have you started reading it?
No, it's supposed to be here.
Okay.
Check my thing, but it's supposed to be here the next day or so.
Oh, you're gonna like it, man. That is a very enlightening book. I really want to know what you think about it once you read it.
Will do. I will. You know,
because when you're reading it now, when you're reading that book, think about what the government is doing, you know, through the book, what the government's been doing to other countries, and then think about it as if they were doing it to us, to the American people. Because what I think is that what the government has done to other countries throughout the last 5 to 7 decades, they've also done to us at a micro level.
Right.
And once you read the book, you'll understand exactly where I'm coming from. Because I put out a video a while back, something like the American people have been hit by an economic hitman or something like that. And then you'll understand what I'm talking about when you read the book and you try to twist it to that what they've done to all these other countries for decades, they've actually done to us as well. We just haven't noticed till now, though. I think more people are waking up now.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I that's why I love your channel, because for me personally, I've gained a lot of knowledge moving forward before I even got into this YouTube thing. You know, there's several of you guys out there that just provide a lot of great information. You know, and there's all different kinds of YouTube channels with all different types of information. But some people, you just, when you watch it, it engages you to the point where you're like, you know, like you just have that connection. And that's what I've made with your channel and others. And it's helped me progress as a prepper, you know, through my prepperhood.
Man, that's great. It's great to hear.
Let me see. We're almost at an hour and a half. I just want to, how much data? Yeah, I was going to say, anybody want to ask some questions? You guys can throw them in. You guys can throw them in. Grim says he's getting sleepy.
How much daylight in Alaska during the winter? So once we hit December, probably the month of December is the darkest month of the year. You're looking at an average of about 2.5 2 hours and 45 minutes of daylight during the month of December.
Okay.
And when I talk about daylight, it's not, you don't even get to see the sun. It's just like the sun barely touches the horizon. And then once the winter solstice hits, which is, excuse me, the 21st of December, we start gaining anywhere between 3 to 7 minutes of daylight a day. So like right now, it's what, February 10th? It's February 10th. Right now, we're looking at, let me see, this morning we had daylight at 9:30 and around 4:30 was, so we had daylight for about a good 6.5 hours or so today, which is good. So, you know, here coming March, we'll have daylight almost 20 hours a day, 17, 20 hours a day.
Rudy, I just want to acknowledge someone in the chat. Another person I've looked up to for quite some time. We had discussed him earlier. His Magic Prepper is in the house.
Hey, Matt is in the house. What's up, brother? There he is. How you doing, brother? Good to see you, man.
And it's funny. I was going to mention something to Rip Curl. I was because I wanted to reach out to Magic Prepper, and sometimes I feel weird reaching out to large channels in regards to doing.
Magic Prepper is the real deal, man. He's the same guy you see on the video as he is when you talk to him on the phone.
That's awesome, man. So I'm definitely Matt. If you're paying attention, I'm going to reach out to you here soon. I definitely would love to have you as a guest one of these days on the channel, man. It's nice meeting you guys face to face and actually chit chatting with you guys. So I appreciate you for being in the chat. Appreciate it. But yeah, Rudy, I'm looking to see. Hold on, do we have any questions in here before I wrap anything up? I want to make sure that we're not missing nothing, because I've really been focusing on you, you know, because this was awesome. You know what I mean? We had a lot of great information in here. This is awesome. I don't see anything popping off there. Let me make sure I've asked you all my questions now since I have you on here. Food storage, prep, stock buybacks. You already talked about the UBI. And just to quickly touch on that, what you said that one night about UBI, and you hope that they do it now. You hope they give us $40,000. You just hope they get it out the way, push it out so that our kids' futures will be in a better situation from that point. And I agree with you 100%.
Yep. I am a staunchly against the government giving anyone anything, for one reason, because the government cannot give anyone anything that it didn't take away from someone else.
Agreed.
So, and usually the method by which the government takes from someone to give to someone else is through the barrel of a gun, meaning that if you don't pay your taxes, you know what happens. You can resist, all right? And you can resist all you want, but eventually you're going to pay them either with your labor or behind bars. So taxation, in my opinion, is theft, 100% theft, right? And taxation is the reason why our government has grown as large as it has grown. And it's now out of control. It has grown into a monster that we cannot control. And eventually, like I said, the day that the cycle comes to an end, what will happen will happen. You know?
You said it best. Again, you know, you said once this crisis is over, as it peters out, what's the next crisis?
Oh, it's gonna be a big one. I'm telling you right now. I'm not a prophet and I'm not a know-it-all, but it's gonna be a big crisis. It has to be. It has to be a big crisis. I mean, what brought on the Patriot Act? A huge crisis, right? We're going to need something bigger than that. We will need something bigger than that in order for them to implement their final solution.
Right.
And their final solution is to be able to do, like I said in the beginning, have a two-tier system where they have full control over our lives. And that's not being a conspiracy theorist. That's just being a realist. All you have to do is look back. You know, people are so stuck on the divide, right? I mean, if you've heard me talk about politics, I've always said that there's only one political party, right? There's only one political party. But because it doesn't matter what party's in office, it doesn't matter. You know, if you look back throughout your entire life, like I have, I've looked back throughout my entire life and I said, okay, we had a Democrat in office in this year, then we had a Republican in office in this year, then we had a Democrat in office in this year, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What's gotten any better? What has gotten any better in the last 50 years? I mean, the war on poverty started in the late 60s. Has poverty gotten any better? No, it's more than doubled. They started the war on poverty and it's more than doubled, right? They started the war on drugs and we're the most medicated country in the world. The United States is the highest medicated country in the world. We started a war on drugs. Why didn't that work? Everything's been getting worse and worse and worse. Why? Because the only reason that they tell us that there's two political parties is to give us the illusion of choice, to give us the illusion that our vote really matters when it doesn't, right? Because it doesn't matter who's in there. We're going to get the same results year after year, election after election, until they have what it is that they want. And what do they want? Once you've got so much power, once you've got so much money, what do you yearn for? You yearn for power. They want complete power over us. And they're going to get it. They're going to get it. You know, they're going to get it, unfortunately. But the good news is that eventually we'll take back what's ours, and that's freedom. But we have to go through some hard times before we can actually have some good times.
Agreed.
And it's just the way it's always been, and that's the way it's going to be this time, whether people want to admit it or not. So there's going to be hard times coming along, ladies and gentlemen. Just prepare. Don't be afraid of it. Just prepare, because there's nothing that you can do to stop. There's absolutely nothing that you can do to stop the digital currency they got coming. There's nothing that you can do to stop the GMOs. Have we stopped the GMOs? I mean, look at all the protests and all this stuff over the last decade and a half or two. Stop GMOs, lawsuits. Have we stopped it? No. We're not going to stop anything. It's going to happen. And then once it happens and the people have really had enough, nature will take over and we'll find ourselves in a better place. But first, there's going to be pain. And that's why we prepare. It's very simple.
Well said. Well said. And it's not like you said, not even about being a prophet. It's just look at history in general, be it either U.S. history or history of other countries, and how everything has a cycle and whatnot. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Romans thought they were never going to fall at one point or another.
Yeah.
So, you know, things are just bound to happen, and that's agreed with you is why we prep and stay prepared. It's like the best thing that you can possibly do at this point. So, but Rudy, I'm pretty sure you've been doing lives. I know you got things to do, brother. I want to say thanks for being on with me tonight. It's truly a pleasure. I want to say thank you to everybody in chat. You know, we've held a pretty good large group in chat. I think my largest ever. Thanks, Rudy.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for joining in, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you coming over here and supporting GreyMan Prepping here. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't subscribed yet, I don't know what you're waiting for, but go ahead and subscribe. Listen, this is what I always say. Subscribe to the prepping channels that are within our communities. And if you don't like what they put out, then unsubscribe later on. But we need to support each other. That way we can continue to spread the message. And those of us that can spread the message in a good way, then, you know, those of us will succeed by getting more people to subscribe. But the thing is that you're not going to know what someone has unless you check them out. So subscribe to GreyMan, check out his work. And if you like the man, then subscribe and stay subscribed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, because we have to stick together. We definitely have to, you know, I'm going to go ahead and get off my soapbox here pretty soon. If there was one time in my lifetime that I thought that we had to stick together more than ever, it's now. This is the time that we have to allow our voices to be heard and heard wide. Because the more people that are prepared, the better that is going to be for all of us. It's not even a selfish thing. The more people throughout our country and throughout our world that are prepared, the better that is going to be for all of us. All right, because if you live in a building of 40 apartments and you're the only one that's prepped, guess what's going to happen when they run out of food? They're going to come to you. And guess what's going to happen if they all have food? You guys can all join together and maybe do community policing or something. But get prepared and support those small channels and every channel that talks about this, because it's important that we hear the words, and it's even more important that you get a diversified that you get a diversified viewpoint of prepping, because I don't know everything about prepping, you know, and I'm sure GreyMan doesn't know everything about prepping, but I'm sure he knows some stuff I don't know, you know. And once he watches a couple of my videos on pressure canning, hopefully he'll start pressure canning a little. All right, I'm gonna leave it at that. Again, thank you very much for having me, brother. It's really been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was truly awesome, man. First 5-10 minutes, my heart's pumping and I'm breathing crazy and stuff like that, because I'm like talking to Alaska Prepper here.
Oh, I'm just a crazy old man, dude. You don't have to worry about that.
But this was truly an amazing time, man. I really appreciate it. And guys, again, thanks everybody for watching. And if for some weird reason, if you're not subscribed to Rudy, Alaska Prepper, you need to do so, man, because his knowledge base is awesome, and he's very influential in regards to this community and what he does for this community. So, all right, so we're going to sign off, man. I want to say, everybody, thanks again. God bless, and everybody have a good night. And we'll see you again soon, hopefully. All right, guys.
Good night, everyone.